Wow. 4 months. 4 months since I've like last actually recorded a video, so I really am sorry about that one, guys. If you care, please stick around to this part. If you don't really care or don't really know me, just go on ahead to this part in the video. I'm gonna put it like right down below with big circle around it. Give me 1 second, actually. Okay, sorry about that, but yeah. If you don't really care, just go to this point in the video. If you do care, just stick around. Yeah. So when I first started buying the manga, when I first started like reading, when I first started doing all that, I already did kind of deal with sleep, and honestly, it was a really difficult thing for me to get through. Thankfully, I managed to get through it. But in the process of that, I did had to leave that part-time job I was in. It was a really good job too. I really did enjoy it. I will genuinely always share my love for that job because it genuinely is like the one of the best, if not the best place I think I'm ever gonna work. It was the most calming, least stressful retail part-time job I could work. But at the same time, I like my sleep and the amount of it that I was getting, it was unsatisfactory. Over the past 4 months, I got a new job, started working full time at a hospitality, which is honestly really fun and enjoyable. But again, it is still full time, so this is kind of like a really rare moment where I can actually get it. So this is kind of where we're at now. This is where it cuts off. So everyone, welcome back. Um, Sorry about that. Please like and subscribe these videos. These books are really expensive to make. But I really do love like reading. I really do love dissecting a book that I really enjoy. So here we go. Let's go on to Beastars Volume 2. Now, for those of you who, quick recap, for those of you who don't remember, it ends off with Legoshi entering the Haru's garden. Again, he recognizes her. He's scared that she's gonna recognize him. And we also do learn more about Haru and what kind of, I don't want to say animal because I don't think animal is like the accurate word. We learn more about the kind of woman that she's like, right? She's scared, right? We learn that in the first manga, in the first volume, that she uses her body in order to yes, hide away, to not shine, to not be scared. And again, towards the end of the first chapter, she does it towards Legoshi. Except he's not like that. His mind doesn't even think about that. As you can see here, like he's literally thinking of what to say to her. He's not even like thinking of, oh, I want to, you know. He's not thinking of. He doesn't want to like right there. I don't need a reward. He just wants to talk to her more. He doesn't want to have sex with her. He doesn't want to eat her, or so you think. Again, this is literally one of those situations where I'm like, is Legoshi like, how do I say this? Is Legoshi like an accurate like author? Like, is he telling us the truth, or is he lying to us as he's lying to himself? This is actually in contrast, in support with what the last chapter is. Last chapter, if I can get to it here. The last chapter of volume 2, where again, oh, am I too far ahead? Okay, I think I'm too far ahead. Whoops, sorry about that, guys. Ignore this then. Ignore this. Hee hee hee. Ignore what I just said then, guys. Spoiler, yes, I did read volume 2. I did read volume 3 already, so I'm gonna be making a video on that when I have the time. But uh, okay, we're back. I forgot the passport, but so again, this is like why I really want to say there's a stark contrast between like chapter 8 and chapter 16 of this, because there just genuinely is. But again, so we learn more. Skip. So again, he's kind of like, what the hell's going on, right? What am I, you know? And again, also again in contrast to, or it's not in contrast, but like in comparison to what I said about volume 1, like does Lego she genuinely care about her, or is this just, you know? And again, it kind of does go back to like his desires, right? I think the big question for this one is like, is it his desires, or is it genuinely just what he's saying, right? It's why I'm very kind of skeptical now to really consider Legoshi like an author, an accurate an accurate author of his own story even then. But like there's just it's confusing, right? Like he doesn't understand what's going on. He doesn't understand what it's like to be with women. Like I said, we'll go over to a certain part here that I want to talk about where he said, I think she's got some issues, but she's probably a nice girl. So this is after, she's told about what she did. He doesn't seem to really care. He seems to understand that everyone has issues. He knows about them himself, right? Again, he is a big wolf in a world where herbivores are like, I don't want to say they're like elitist, but there is definitely that like sense that herbivores are like treated differently than carnivores are, and especially in this world. And again, it's also back to like what I said about Volume One, where I do think this story is obviously more than just about a wolf in a world full of carnivores and herbivores. I think this story is a pretty accurate reflection of what it's like to be a man and a woman, um, especially one that's seen so scarily. But in the first volume, I think in the first video, I think I was kind of hesitant to say. I think Legoshi is meant to represent like a man of color, and I know that sounds like what the hell are you saying? How does that make sense? I genuinely believe Legoshi is meant to represent a man of color in a world where white men and I don't want to really say it like this, but ultimately white men and white women have a lot more they have a lot more what's the word? Privilege. That's the word I was looking for. Sorry about that. I had to like genuinely stop for a second. I think they have a lot more privilege. Obviously, white women are still treated as they are still ultimately women, but at the end of the day, they are also ultimately white. So there's not much to say about that, right? Um, and so Legoshi is kind of like he's he's a he's a person of color. He's a man of color, right? In a world where like ultimately race has taken like over the top that we live in our world currently, right? And even then, he's like a gray wolf, so he's like, who shit, I'm gonna say like the worst of the worst, but like he ultimately faces it the most, right? You know. But then there's also parts that make me think, okay, why is like again like this right here? I am happy. I'm content with these feelings. I want to see her again. Like he knows there's desires in him. He knows that what it looks like. He knows that, but he also just doesn't care. Like at the end of the day, he doesn't see himself as he doesn't. I don't think he necessarily sees himself as a carnivore, but rather as someone who should be like hid away, who's someone who who's someone who's feared, right? Again, this again also in comparison to volume one, he sort of sees himself as someone who should be feared, right? And he's sorry for that. He knows himself, and he's thinks that that's all he is. And ultimately, I really hope that towards the end, like they do kind of resolve this, and they do sort of like show like, hey, you're not just a wolf. You're also someone who genuinely is in love, right? You're someone who has desires. You're someone who should have desires, because ultimately that is who you are. But you're also someone who can care for someone who can show them genuine love. And then you kind of go on to the second half of the volume where, say, he kind of has to drop out, and then you have to play that part. I'll show you guys right here. Yeah, right here. Kind of a weird arc, but yeah, they have to play their part. And right here, I can again. This is why I say that like herbivores, they don't like outright say it, but they do have somewhat of a superiority complex. And again, it's like it's freaky because like they drew this with such detail. Again, I want to say huge like fuck props to the author because he did amazing. And look, he's annoyed because he knows. I think of all, like again, I think herbivores do have like that superiority complex, but at the same time, that's only because carnivores don't actively like say like, "Oh no, fuck you," like I'm the fucking, like I could kill you pretty much. And I think this is genuinely what makes like Lewis like mad. Like, look again, why don't you ever utilize your strength? You don't need to restrain yourself. Like don't label me as a herbivore. He does have a superiority complex, but he's annoyed about that. He's annoyed that that's all he's seen as a herbivore. As someone who has a superiority complex, but also someone who just has power just because. And I think that's why that's the way he acts the way he does. I think that's why he acts so like I think like his persona of like being so superior is just a fake, a facade. But he also acts, but that's why he actively tells everyone like, "Hey, we are equal. We're, you know, we have desires, and you have to act on them." And I think that's why it's like really interesting to see, and that's why I don't really like Lois. Lewis, Lewis. I'm saying like Lois, like from Family Guy. But it's why Lewis scares me because I just can't get a grip on him. Like I don't understand him. And again, second half, where obviously he can't do the second. Obviously, the first show goes amazing, right? He does all he can, but unfortunately, he has to give the part over to the tiger, a carnivore, which is interesting, right? Like he could have chosen a lot of other people. He knows who this tiger is. He knows how they act, and yet he still chose him. Why? Right? He chose a carnivore. Why? Because he wanted Legoshi to also be the one to do it. And it's interesting, you know. I think Bill is again, Bill is a very interesting choice for this. But again, I don't know. It's kind of like one of those where I think he knew what was gonna happen, but he wanted to see it happen. He wanted like everyone to see it happen. And then obviously we have this whole conversation. You're really easily misunderstood, but everyone try to see the friendly wolf you really are. They're not even saying person. They're not even saying like creature. They're not even like they're just saying wolf. Because again, in this world, that's sneeze fuck. In this world, that's all that people are really gonna see him as a wolf, right? Even if he's a friendly wolf, they're just gonna see him as a wolf. And that's also again in comparison to what real life is like, where sure I can be like the nicest person, I can be the greatest human being of all time. Yet what people are gonna describe me as, instead of saying as a person, instead of saying as anything like that, they're gonna say, "Oh, he's a really nice Mexican," right? And again, that's not. It takes forever to sort of change that mindset. It's gonna take years. It's gonna take decades. It's something that It's why I do believe that like. It's why I do believe that like systemic racism is still a thing. It's why I still believe that everyone is ultimately like a tiny bit racist, because at the end of the day, if we just keep acknowledging in inappropriate situations that like, hey, at the end of the day, you're a Mexican man, you're an Asian man, you're a black woman, you're a black man, right? If we keep acknowledging like that instead of just saying you're a really great person, we're never gonna be united. And that's not to say that our differences are bad, right? That's not to say that like, oh, our differences don't make us unique, that our differences don't make us who we are. But again, there is a time and place to be able to acknowledge it. There's a time and place to be able to like look at this and be able to say, hey, you know, we should celebrate this. We should celebrate, the culture you grew up in. We should celebrate the culture. And again, it's not exactly just the fact that like, oh, I'm a Mexican man, so you have to like acknowledge every part of that. But there is a certain culture that I grew up with that other cultures and older people are not going to be, you know, not understanding of, but like they didn't grow up with it. So at the end of the day, I'm not gonna be too upset about that, I guess. At the end of the day, if you say, "Oh, you're a really nice Mexican man," it's kind of like, "What the hell do you mean?" But like, if you say, "Oh," like, like, there's no nice way to say it, I guess. There's no nice way to be like, "Oh, hey, you grew up really well for Mexican." Like, what the hell does that even mean, dude? But again, this is kind of where he sort of realized he had blood, and I feel like this is kind of like the ironic part. Like, say you got easy living in Japan, I can't be like you. You wouldn't understand because you never had to deal with pressure in your life. There's irony in that. Especially considering I think Billy is supposed to be like one of the white tigers. I'm serious. Look, I believe. Yeah, get it? The irony, right? There's irony in that statement itself. So it's kind of like, okay, well, whatever, right? I get like she is a gray wolf, but huh? Okay, okay. He's not upset over like that comment, but he's done of it. Like he's remembering Lois's speech of like, why don't you ever? he can't talk to her. He can't do this. So he's upset about that. He's taking it into his own hands. It's why I really do enjoy this fight scene and why I think, like, again, ultimately Lewis knew this was gonna happen. He knew that, like, Legoshi is someone who's fought against his his instincts the whole time. His entire life he's fought against his instincts. And so that's why he's genuinely so upset to see someone just use, like, red blood to use something that, he's always been so against, especially in a situation where it's just straight up inappropriate, where it's very inappropriate. But again, Lewis knew this was gonna happen. He knew this fight was always gonna happen. He knew Legoshi. He wanted Legoshi to fight. Wanted him. He's never seen it before. There's a reason why this took up a whole page. And again, everyone else is surprised. Sorry about that. I hear someone in the background of my house. But again, like everyone is surprised by this because they always saw Legoshi as quiet, as timid. So to see this part of him is surprising and scary. But to Lewis, I think it, like, in a way, it turns him on. And it's why again, I'm genuinely terrified of Lewis more than I am of, like, anyone in this scene. Because Legoshi is just doing, he's upset because of what they did. Because he's upset over literally everything that, because, again, the white tiger is literally everything in comparison to what a gray wolf is. Again, look, he's not even, like, surprised. He's not even, like, hurt. He's, like, he's more, I think this is not a face of shock. Like, this is not a face of shock, but a face of annoyance. Face of, like, how dare you? Again, this is why, look, obviously part of the play, oh, sad wolf, accept your fate. He's not saying that to the, like, Legoshi's character. He's saying that to Legoshi himself. To accept that Legoshi is a wolf. To accept that Legoshi has those desires. To just give in to them. Obviously, Lois steps in and stops it from happening. But again, I don't see a world where Lewis, I keep saying Lois did. I just don't see a world where Lewis knew this was gonna happen. We didn't know it was gonna happen. Give me 1 second, guys. Yeah, I'm back. But like I said, it's why I don't think Lewis is surprised by this. Like, he chose someone literally polar opposite to him to play his part. Right? You have a big, like, gray tiger who's pretty much, like, in size comparison, like, size to size to him. Like, comparably, like, pretty much equal. And then you have the Slim Lewis. Like, you have Slim Lewis. Like, you have someone who genuinely, like, is slim and tall versus big and bulky. So again, it's why I'm really not surprised that Lewis wanted this fight to happen. He knew it was gonna happen. He was, I think, a bit taken back over the extent of it. But I think ultimately he's not very surprised. He's not very, like, shocked over the fight of it. Sorry about that, guys. Like, a tiny bit of a setback. I had to go out, but again, my point still stands. I think this just left a lot more questions than it did answers. I remember back in the first volume, I sort of thought that Legoshi was Legoshi's, like, desires were meant to represent his inner desires. Then why would he fight if, if his desires were to just devour Haru? If they were to just, So that being said, I feel like it just left me with a lot more questions than it did answers. The only thing that really got, like, resolved was the fact that now I know that I know that Lewis is just a bit of a weirdo. So I hope you guys enjoyed. This is Metalface Pablo. Please like, subscribe, so I can afford the next few volumes, guys. They're kind of expensive. Yep. Hope you guys have a good one.